In 1963, the American landscape was still being redrawn by the Interstate Highway System. Construction had begun 7 years earlier, and by the early 60s, thousands of miles of divided highway were connecting cities that had once been hours apart. The post-war economy had created a prosperous middle class, and millions of families were leaving urban centers for newly developed suburbs. This movement outward created practical transportation problems. Homes, workplaces, schools, and shopping centers were now separated by distances that required reliable vehicles. The typical American sedan offered comfort and style but struggled on unpaved roads, in snow, or when carrying heavy loads. Pickup trucks handled rough terrain and cargo, but sacrificed passenger comfort and weather protection. Few vehicles effectively bridged both needs. The Jeep Wagoneer, introduced in November 1962 as a 1963 model, was designed to address this gap. Not a truck, not a car. The Wagoneer was not the first vehicle to combine enclosed passenger space with four-wheel drive capability. International Harvester's Travelall and Chevrolet's Suburban had been in production for years. What distinguished the Wagoneer was its emphasis on everyday comfort alongside utility. It featured an enclosed steel body with seating for 6 passengers. Four-wheel drive was available as an option, though many early buyers chose the two-wheel drive version. The suspension system used independent front suspension with coil springs rather than the solid front axles common on trucks of the period. This design reduced road vibration and improved handling on paved surfaces. The ride height was higher than a standard sedan, but not excessively tall. Ground clearance measured approximately 8 inches, enough to navigate rough roads without appearing agricultural. The wheelbase was 110 inches, and overall length was just over 183 inches, dimensions that allowed it to fit comfortably in residential driveways and parking spaces designed for passenger cars. Styling was conservative. The body used straight lines and flat panels. Chrome trim was minimal. There were no exaggerated fins or decorative elements. It looked purposeful rather than flashy. Engineering for daily life. The first Wagoneer models were equipped with a 230 cubic inch overhead cam inline-6 engine, an unusual choice for an American vehicle at the time. This engine, known as the Tornado, was designed by Kaiser and produced approximately 140 horsepower. It was paired with either a 3-speed manual transmission or an optional automatic. By 1965, American Motors Corporation, which had acquired Kaiser Jeep's automotive operations, began offering a V8 engine option, a 327 cubic inch AMC V8 producing around 250 horsepower. This provided stronger acceleration and made highway merging more predictable, particularly when the vehicle was loaded with passengers or cargo. The four-wheel drive system was engaged manually using a floor-mounted lever. It was not designed for constant use on dry pavement, but rather for conditions where traction was compromised: snow, mud, gravel, or steep inclines. In practice, many owners used two-wheel drive most of the time and engaged four-wheel drive only when necessary. Interior appointments included vinyl bench seating, rubber floor mats, and straightforward instrumentation. Later models added wood grain trim, carpeting, and air conditioning as options. These were practical additions rather than luxury statements, designed to make the vehicle more comfortable during long drives. The rear cargo area could be accessed through a tailgate that opened downward. The rear seats could be folded or removed entirely, creating a flat load floor. This flexibility allowed the vehicle to function as a passenger carrier during the week and a cargo hauler on weekends. Who it was designed for. The Wagoneer's intended market was broad but specific. It appealed to professionals living in rural areas who needed weather protection and cargo space: veterinarians, surveyors, contractors. It was purchased by suburban families who wanted a single vehicle capable of transporting children during the week and equipment or recreational gear on weekends. It found buyers among tradespeople who needed to carry tools and materials, but preferred not to drive a commercial-looking truck to family events. It was used by outdoor-oriented Americans who wanted access to camping sites, hunting areas, or ski resorts without requiring a separate vehicle for those trips. Marketing materials from the period emphasized practicality and versatility. Advertisements showed the vehicle in front of suburban homes, on dirt roads, and near bodies of water. The tone was matter of fact. There was no suggestion that owning a Wagoneer signaled status or adventure. It was presented as a sensible solution to specific transportation needs. Why it looked ordinary. The Wagoneer did not appear revolutionary when it was introduced. Its proportions resembled those of a station wagon. Its styling was conventional. It was not marketed as a radical departure from existing vehicles. As a result, it attracted little attention outside its target market. This ordinariness was part of its effectiveness. The Wagoneer succeeded not by challenging consumer expectations but by quietly meeting them. It offered capabilities that many families needed without requiring them to adopt a new category of vehicle or a new way of thinking about transportation. Major shifts in consumer behavior often begin this way. A product addresses a latent need without fanfare, gains acceptance gradually, and only later is recognized as having changed the landscape. In 1963, the Wagoneer was simply a practical vehicle. Decades later, it would be described as the template for the modern SUV. The legacy. The Wagoneer remained in production, with continuous updates until 1991, a 28-year production run that spanned significant changes in American automotive manufacturing. During those years, other manufacturers introduced vehicles that followed similar principles. The Chevrolet Blazer in 1969, the Ford Bronco in 1966, and later the full-size Ford Bronco and Chevrolet Suburban variants designed for family use. By the 1980s, the term sport utility vehicle had entered common usage, and by the 1990s, SUVs had become one of the dominant vehicle categories in America. These vehicles prioritized passenger comfort, offered optional four-wheel drive, and were sized for suburban families, characteristics that the Wagoneer had established decades earlier. The Wagoneer's influence was not the result of aggressive innovation or marketing genius. It succeeded because it correctly identified a need. Americans were moving outward, driving farther, and requiring vehicles that could handle both daily routines and occasional challenging conditions. The Wagoneer provided that capability in a package that looked familiar and required no explanation. It represents a specific moment in American transportation history, a point at which infrastructure expansion, suburban growth, and vehicle engineering converged to create demand for a new type of vehicle. The Wagoneer was the response. What followed was an industry.